All right, we are live. What's up, world? My voice is broken. You are watching Footballs Deep, the best, whatever this is, football show in the world. I am Jessi Milestone, Rabbit Eagles fan.
And I am Kendo Slice, a Kansas City Chiefs fan that's had his heart broken too many times.
Aw, which is why he's not even repping for his team today.
Well, that night came from work.
Womp womp. So this is the perfect day to have fantasy football hopefully mansplained to me. The best kind of explaining, the only kind of explaining I do for others.
I will do it extremely toxic and masculine as well.
I hope so. That's why I'm a football fan. Is for just the most toxic masculinity possible. What's up, guys? We got some people watching. Welcome.
Fantastic.
So this is great because obviously my voice is tanked since I ended up accidentally live streaming for almost 7 hours last night. So where do we begin with this discussion of
fantasy foosball, the devil's foosball? So fantasy football, for those that are not in the know, is a game that you play with friends, usually for money if you're doing it right, where you pick a lineup. And by picking your lineup and picking your players, you play them week in and week out, and you score points. And these points help you either win head-to-head games if you're in a head-to-head league, or if you're in a daily fantasy. We'll get into all of that. I have been playing fantasy football for, I don't know, too long at this stage. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Sometimes it causes a bit of a what they call it when you can't get involved because you're involved with both. So the word escapes me. It's like I have to cheer for players of teams I hate, and I don't want them to win.
Like a conflict of interest, kind of.
Yeah. So that's like, because every once in a while, I end up with a player on my team that is a Raider, and I'm like, God, I don't want him to fucking do good because I don't want the Raiders to win, but I want to win fantasy football. Conflict of interest, that's what it is. So eventually, every once in a while, you get yourself a nice conflict of interest going. But
I said that. That's what I said it was. Anyway.
You cut out, though, and your voice is all screwed up.
Sorry. It's my voice's fault. Yeah, that's actually honestly one of the big reasons why I haven't fantasied before, because I'm very, very deeply invested in my team. And so every week when I'm watching a different game, I find a reason to be invested that's somehow related to my team. And if there is no reason, then I just sort of pick one arbitrarily based on the things I know and which team I like better.
Yeah, I've done that before, too, in fantasy. Like, I've got my main leagues I played in. My cousin had a league. It was full of a bunch of whiners and dorks, and we're no longer doing that league. We were creating our own league that you, of course, are going to be welcome to join. And then I got my buddy Rocco's Domination League, which is fun. It's money to get in. Well, it's a donation to get in. And then the winner gets the money donated to a charity of his choice, typically their pocket. And because I don't know what the gambling rules are. So that's a keeper league, and we will go into what that means. So it's kind of a dynasty mode type thing. But then one year I drafted a team of just Chiefs players to see how that would go. The Chiefs, I think, went like 11-5 that year. My fantasy team went like 3-8. So drafting all players from one team is never a good idea. So we'll get into that. We'll explain it. And if you're ready, I can tell you about the basics of fantasy football. So get your notepads and pens ready.
You just froze.
Am I still froze?
No, you're back.
Okay, good. So in fantasy football, typical traditional fantasy football, you get a lineup. You get a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, a flex position, which in real leagues is a running back, a receiver, or a tight end. In garbage leagues, you can put a quarterback on there as well. And then you get a kicker and a defense and special teams.
Okay.
So that's where your main lineup comes from. There's a draft. You draft the players, whatever, and you can fill your team that way. So one year in the Rocco Domination League that I won back-to-back and came this close from three-peating. One year I drafted Antonio Brown. I got to draft him with the 9th overall pick or something like that. So I had AB. And then if your player gets hurt and you're in a keeper league like that, you can keep them from year to year, and I'll explain how that works. But then somebody had Le'Veon Bell when he hurt his MCL. They released him to waivers. I picked him up. I didn't make the playoff, or I made the playoffs that year, lost in the semifinals. But then for the next couple of years, I ran the league roughshod because I had Bell and Brown on my team. And then they both proceeded to screw me over last year by either holding out or being a total bitch.
Yeah. Accurate.
But, yeah. So that's how that works.
So when you're drafting those, do you just, because I know I've heard people be like, oh, I chose to start this one or whatever. Do you draft more than one like defense or whatever? And then so how many do you typically have in your pocket to choose to start?
It's kind of your choice. There are usually caps on how many times or how many different, like usually you can draft like your roster limits of like 4 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 running backs, however many receivers. So you can draft as many of those as you want. Yeah. You don't have to, there's no special rules on how many, like what you can and can't draft. You can draft whatever you want so long as you've got the roster spot for it allowed by the league. So most of them cap quarterbacks at 3, running backs at like 5 or 6, receivers at 5 or 6, because you will draft, I think it's like 17 rounds typically. Yeah. So you got your 9 starters and you got 8 backup players. So, and depending on the league, a made from scratch league like ours, it's going to be a random draft order. And then after that, it's reverse of finishing position from the previous year. So like the real NFL draft.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I think you'll enjoy it.
I hope so. I don't think I can draft any Cowboys players though.
There's no outside of Zeke. There's no Cowboys players worth drafting, and I can assure you, depending on your draft position, Zeke will probably be gone.
I don't want him anyway. And what do you mean? What do you mean? Dak Prescott's not the quarterback of the future. What do you mean? Jason Witten's not going to have his All-Pro season.
Dak Prescott would have been a good player to have a couple of years ago, but now he's fantasy poison. He's been god-awful in fantasy football the last few years.
The only year where he put up any decent stats was his first year. I guess he might have been okay for fantasy year 2 because Zeke was running really well, and they did okay as a team. Like he did horribly as a quarterback, but he might have put up, because that's what I'm trying to figure out is you can have a quarterback that's not necessarily playing that well or winning games for their teams, but they still might be posting good stats.
Well, there's a reason for that. So the way stats break down for fantasy football is if you're a non-quarterback and you score a touchdown, you get 6 points, just like a touchdown. But a quarterback, a throwing touchdown is only 4 points.
Okay.
But a running touchdown for a quarterback is 6. So there's that. Also, the yards for a quarterback, passing yards is 0.04% are points. So you have to a quarterback has to throw, I think, 25 yards before they get a point.
Okay.
So they've got fractional points. And then for running backs and receivers and the like, rushing yards and quarterbacks as well, rushing yards and receiving yards each count as a 1/10 of a point per yard. So 10 yards gets you a point.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So you could theoretically have a player. I mean, like there were for sure games, the Giants last year, there were games where Saquon Barkley ran for hundreds, like over 100 yards, even though the team did garbage. And maybe their lone touchdown. So that could still be a good week. He could still put up a bunch of points, even though the team got annihilated. Yeah.
So say Saquon Barkley rushes for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he gets 19.8 points for the yardage, which is good. And then he gets an extra 12 points for the touchdowns.
Yeah.
And some leagues, they have bonus points for if you get a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver. That's not always the case in most leagues. That's kind of one of those Bush League type things. And then there's other types of leagues that are called PPR, which is points per reception. So if you got a receiver who catches 8 balls for 100 yards, that's 10 points. But if it's a PPR league, depending on how many points you give per reception, you could either get an extra half point for every catch or a point for every catch.
Okay.
And our league may be PPR. Me and my cousin are still kind of trying to figure out what we want to do. But we'll probably go PPR because a lot of leagues do PPR. So that's a different dynamic. So say you got a receiver that catches 4 or 5 balls, but he's going to get you 100 yards. But then you got somebody like an Edelman who's going to catch you about 12 balls for maybe 45 or 50 yards.
Gotcha.
Who's more valuable at that point based on the points?
So it can be better in a PPR league to have someone who's going to be targeted a lot, or someone who's going to get a few big chunk plays.
Right. So that's where your slot receivers really come into play, is in a PPR league, or a like a vacuum cleaner tight end, like not necessarily a Kelsey, because he's going to get you a lot of yardage and a touchdown usually every game or every other game anyway. But like
Ertz will be like that. You know, he's not.
Yeah, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is going to get you 5 or 6, 7, 8 catches a game for maybe 50 yards.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So now he goes from a 5-point tight end to upwards to a 13-point tight end. Usually half a point is where it's at. So even at half point, 8 reception, that's 4 points.
Sure.
And 9 points on your tight end's a good week.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So
Just keep feeding me questions, and I'll keep telling you.
All right. I had another question. I'm trying to remember what that other question was. I don't remember. How do playoffs work?
So, like the NFL playoffs or the fantasy football league playoffs?
And I know how NFL playoffs work.
No, I didn't know if you meant that. Does the fantasy league go during the NFL playoffs?
Okay. Yes, both in that case.
Okay, so does it go during the NFL playoffs? No, but also yes if you do daily fantasy, which is something totally different. But in terms of fantasy football league, depending on your league and how they structure their playoffs and how many teams get in, standard 10-team league, most of the time only 4 teams get in your playoffs. If it is single game playoffs, then your playoff weeks are usually 15 and 16 or 16 and 17. If it's a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do 2-legged playoffs. So your playoff game will go for week 14, 15, and then your championships week 16 and 17.
Okay.
A lot of leagues end in 16 because with 17 being a big week for people sitting players.
Yeah.
But you're more hardcore, you're more in-depth, make you think and try harder leagues, they'll make your championship round 16 and 17.
Gotcha.
Because then you can't just ride hot heavy hitters all season for the big teams because they're going to be sitting in that week 17. So how good are you at picking out, waiver wires?
Gotcha. That is interesting. So what happens? Let's say you have 3 wide receivers on your fantasy team and they all get injured.
Well, depends on how serious the injury is and if you have IR spots. Typically, a league will come with 2 IR spots. So you say they get injured and they're going to be out for an extended period of time. You could put them in the IR and then you can go pick somebody up from the waiver wire to replace them.
So that's just so anybody who's still free, who no other person in your league has claimed, is still on the table for you to grab.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. And are there like trades, or can you cut players?
You can. You can drop players. The only time you can't drop players is typically 1st-round picks. Yeah. They don't let you drop players because, say I have Patrick Mahomes. Say I draft him in the 1st round, which, by the way, never do that. Never draft a quarterback in the 1st round, even if it is Patrick Mahomes. Say you draft him. Well, you're not allowed to drop him during the season. There's a reason for it. And unless he goes on season-ending IR, then you can drop him. But you can't drop him during the season because what happens is me and you are friends. We're pals. I get knocked out of I miss the playoffs. I drop Patrick Mahomes. You snipe him on the waiver wire. Now you have upgraded your quarterback from Case Keenum or Kirk Cousins to now you have Patrick Mahomes for the playoffs. Gotcha. So there are certain players that aren't allowed to be cut specifically to keep collusion from taking place and people being able to get together to load up on, the stars of the league. But yeah, during the season, say you've got, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a regular player. Say you got Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, he's been having a real, stinker the last couple weeks. I'm going to go ahead and drop him because I want to go pick up Marshawn Lynch. You can do that.
Okay.
If you want to do a trade, you can trade. Trades typically are subject to commissioner approval just because you don't want somebody, in the words of the TV show The League, trade raping somebody. I'm going to send you, I'm going to go ahead and trade you, I don't know, Cole Beasley for Todd Gurley or something like that. Nobody's going to be okay with that because it's like, whoa, wait a second. You're trading a little white guy receiver for Todd Gurley. That's not fair.
Gotcha.
But actually, that's a great idea. So if you go watch this TV show called The League, it was actually about a group of guys and their lives, but they play fantasy football with each other. You'll learn quite a bit about how fantasy football works from that too. That's for all the people listening too. Yeah, you go watch that. You're gonna learn about fantasy football and how to torment your friends.
Hooray! I like both of those things.
Yeah.
All right. So the waiver wire. What's the chain of how does the I'm trying to think of the order of who gets right of refusal go on the waiver wire for fantasy.
Typically it falls into the same thing as the regular waiver wire. The worst teams have priority. So say you came out of the box slow and you're 1-4 and you've got the worst record in your fantasy league, you've got top waiver priority.
So it does shift week to week like that too.
Yes, unless you're in a league that does an auction for free agents, in which case, say you've got top priority. I'm in the middle of the thing. You want for whatever reason Kareem Hunt because you need a good kicker, and you decide you want to claim him, and you're going to bid $10 on him because you get a kitty that you can claim on. Say I need a kicker even better, more than you do. I will put an $11 bid on it. You might have priority, but I end up winning the bid.
Okay.
But most leagues don't do that. They just do traditional waiver wire. Priority gets it.
I'm just like generally always a little bit hesitant to auction humans, even in pretend. Even pretend auctioning humans still feels a little weird.
Yeah, I get that, and you're not really auctioning humans. You're making bids on claiming fantasy football players. No, they're kind of like imaginary characters, but not.
Football players. Let's be real. Football players are imaginary characters.
That's very fair.
Yeah. So okay, questions. I had more. So,
do you want to know how scoring works for defense and special teams?
Yeah.
Okay, so say you claim you got your defense and your special teams. So the way it works is sacks, interceptions, touchdowns, defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns, so like returns, and fumbles recovered and forced fumbles and all that stuff. Those are point scoring methods, and they vary from half a point all the way up to the 6 points for a touchdown. So like if you get a guy that gets pick six, usually INTs are 2 points, touchdowns, 6 points. You get 8 points off of that. But then the things that count against you are the yardage that the defense allows and the points they allow. Okay. So at the start of a game, typically your defense special team starts with 10 points because you get 5 for 0 to 7 points, and you get 5 for less than 100 yards allowed. And then as the game goes on, usually that gets chipped away at. But if you got a defense that is, say you had the Chicago Bears defense last year, okay? You got a defense that gets sacks, they make turnovers, they don't give up a whole lot of yards, they don't give up a lot of scores, and they even, make their own points on defense. Yeah, you'll do really good with the Chicago Bear defense. Yep. But then again, you could also turn around and go get somebody like I'm trying to think of a mid-tier defense last year, the Vikings defense.
Yep.
You go to somebody like the Vikings defense, and yeah, they may be giving up, 20 points a game and 300 yards a game, but they're getting sacks, they're making interceptions, they're getting turnovers, so that mitigates some of the points you lose from just the fact that they play.
Gotcha.
So the way you can really be effective and really, really have a good day is if you happen to have a guy that is a return man on your team. So one year, Antonio Brown, I had Antonio Brown and the Steelers defense. So he ran back a punt. So their special teams got 6 points for that, but Antonio Brown also got 6 points for that. So I got 12 points on one play.
Nice.
That doesn't happen very often because a lot of times your special teams players, unless they're Tyreek Hill, don't usually, which he gets brought up again on the stream, usually don't take place. They're not in your 11-man offense. They're special teams players for a reason because you don't want your top players getting nailed on returns.
I mean, that's why we were in a position with the Eagles where it was like, all right, well, our number 2 linebacker is also one of our number 1 special teams players. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not how that should be. All right. So with kickers, is it just field goal, 3 points?
Extra points are 1. Field goals are 3 points up to 40 yards. And then there are 4 points from 40 yards up to 50. And then anything 50 plus is 5 points.
Gotcha.
Missed kicks count 1 point minus.
Okay. 1 point. Oh, you lose a point for a miss.
Yeah. So say your kicker kicks a 32-yard field goal and an extra point, but then he shanks the next kick. So you got 3 points and a 4 point for your extra point, but then he loses a point, so you're on 3.
Yeah, okay. Cool. That's so then in that instance, like if you have you're always better off with a guy. Well, I think it could be bad. It depends if they're accurate they have a strong leg and their accuracy. If you have a guy who kicks from further and is accurate, even if he's on a team that puts the ball in the end zone a lot, the times when they do get stopped, okay, well, we can go for this 47-yard attempt because he's going to drill it in, and that's still going to be worth certain points to you. So if he's going to do that 3 times a game, or he drills, a 50-plus yarder and a couple 40-plus yarders in a game, that can be as good as someone who's going to throw up a few more, within 30 yards.
Right. So there's some strategy that goes into taking kickers. Do you get one whose offense is really super powerful and they're going to score a lot of touchdowns so you can get those gimme 1 point extra points?
Yeah.
Could. Or do you want to go for one who's got on a team that's got a decent offense that'll put them in field goal range more often? Because a field goal is worth more than an extra point. You got to score 3 touchdowns and get 3 extra points to equal 1 field goal up to 40 yards.
Got it.
So, yeah, it does come into play, but typically kickers, you usually have a platoon in your kicking position. I mean, you might, pick one kicker. You're like, all right, I'm getting Butker or somebody like that, somebody that's got the leg, that's going to see a lot of time on the field, taking shots at the uprights. All for that. But, when bye week comes around, you're going to have to sit him or cut him and get somebody else. Plus, a lot of times you just play the hot hand when it comes to kickers. It's kind of like defense and special teams. You find one that you think is going to have the best matchup to score you the most points, and you just rotate them in and out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So then even if you have a less good defense, there may be a week where they're playing a shitty offense, and so you're going to put them in instead of your good defense against a stronger offense.
Exactly. So it's like last year, if you had anybody playing against so whatever defense was going to play the Arizona Cardinals, you would drop your defense, pick them up, and try to throw them out there because you're probably going to get at least 10 points a game.
Gotcha.
Which so 10 points a game out of a defense is good. Yeah,
okay. So that's actually what's like a good what are we talking like ranges per game like per week? Yeah.
So per position, you want at least 18, 19, 20 points out of your quarterback. You're wanting to see a running back that puts you up at least 12, 13 points. You want receivers that give you about 13, 14. You're essentially your playmakers, your running backs, your receivers. You're wanting at least somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 points out of each one of those. Your tight ends, you're wanting something that's more than 6. Your kickers, again, something in the 9, 10 point range. Defense 9, 10 point range. Your flex player, depending on the situation and what kind of league you're in, again, but that's typically your flex player is going to be a running back or a receiver anyway. So you're looking at 10 to 15 points out of that, because the idea is that if you get the maximum of that, you're going to have 110, 115 points, which typically is enough to win a game each week. But on the low end, you're hoping to at least pull 90 points in, which is enough typically in most fantasy weeks to at least give you a chance.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I just want to remind everyone watching to please go ahead and tackle the like button because it helps.
Stack the like button and kick it in the nuts.
Kick it in the nuts. Go balls deep on that like button. Footballs deep.
That's right. Just the tip to score.
Just the tip to score. That's our motto, guys.
Yeah,
in case you're wondering, our motto.
Yeah.
Just the tip to score.
All right. All you gotta do is just have the tip right over that goal line and you score.
Exactly. Just it counts. It counts. Just has to go a little bit.
You just have to break the plane. There just has to be a little amount of penetration for that to count.
Just enough. And I wanted, since we got if you guys do have any football questions for us, go ahead and throw them in the live chat, and we will be happy to try to answer those. Oh, and I almost forgot. You should probably subscribe to the actual channel that this video is going to be on.
Yeah, Footballs Deep.
Footballs Deep.
Also subscribe to Mindless Entertainment.
Do that. That's this channel that you're watching. And you could subscribe. Kendo, do you have subscribers on your personal channel?
No, because I don't put anything up.
Things. Well, then you should subscribe to World Class Bullshitters.
Yes, subscribe to World Class Bullshitters. We are the epitome of pop culture. Every Thursday night, we take a dump on the world of pop culture.
Huzzah! So, there it is. Football's Deep. And we got a mod in the chat now, too. So if you want to... Oh, that's a good one. Kick that like button. Laces out.
Yeah. Dan.
Do all the things.
I like Kermit the Log. He says, by how many points will my Niners beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl by? Well, there's a good answer to that. None, because neither team can actually play each other in the Super Bowl.
That is the smart answer.
Yes.
Now, if you want to talk the NFC Championship game, you will be beating us by -3 weeks because that's how far back you'll be.
Yeah, the Niners are definitely not ready to contend yet.
No.
Poor drunk 3PO says, as a Miami Dolphins fan, I'm always sad and I drink. Yes, but now you've got Rosen as your quarterback, so you guys were in a rebuild mode. Yeah. You might get good again.
You got to put, and the Dolphins had a good draft. I remember we talked about that. They had a pretty promising draft, so they can make some waves in the league in their division.
Yeah,
I would be happy about it.
Definitely. James 485 wants to know how many points for hitting the uprights 4 times one game. That would be a Cody Parkey question, I believe. And it depends. If he was doing field goal opportunities on each of those, then it's -4.
There you go. Now, is it any? Does he lose an additional point for hitting the upright twice in one kick?
No. It just counts as a field goal miss. That's a -1 point.
Because I feel like that should be worth more negative points.
Oh, honestly, I agree, because if you think about it, hitting the upright is actually harder than making the field goal. To make the field goal, you have to kick it between the uprights, which are a decent width apart. But to hit the upright, you actually you got like way smaller area to kick at. So
it's very impressive.
It's really a lot harder to hit the upright 4 times in one game than it is to make 4 field goals in one game.
It should be and it should where you get a gajillion points in fantasy for hitting the upright, and then you have all these players who end up going to jail because they're secretly scoring their buddies all this money by kicking into the upright for their friends' fantasy teams. It'd be a great future. It'd be a great
definitely.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I know that's like one of the big things for fantasy. One of the things pro fantasy and why the NFL loves it is because it gets people watching more games as opposed to just, turning on the game for your team or casually tuning in. You're more invested in watching more of the games. However, I also do find that's weird. I mean, I personally, I just don't think that because for me, as fun as fantasy is, even if there's money on the line, it's always going to be Eagles first. So I just don't think I could ever start a player. Let's say the Eagles are playing that team that week. I don't think I would ever start a player that was playing in the team that the Eagles were opposing, because that would be bad.
That goes to that whole conflict of interest thing, because there's been times where I'm like, I want the Chiefs to win, but I want this guy to do really good. So I hope the Chiefs defense gets shelled, but I want them to win. Yeah. I hope we win 42-40, 1, and this guy scores 8 touchdowns. Wait, that isn't mathematically possible. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah. And that's for me is like, I would never want to. I have my eye on the prize. It's Super Bowl every year, Super Bowl or bust. So I want to be in a position where I'm happily cheering for my my team to always do good.
Right. Oh, yeah. I'm in the same boat. Like I said, I've run into the conflict of interest way too many times, and it's just like, I don't want to deal with this. But the fun thing is, like, fantasy football will keep you more interested. And honestly, it'll get more if you're just like a casual watcher, or you don't even watch the NFL, but you play in a fantasy football league, you'll find yourself getting more interested in the NFL. Because I've always watched football, and I've always been a passionate Chiefs fan. But ever since I started playing fantasy, I find myself watching more and more and more, which is kind of hard to do considering I typically watch
all of it.
Everything. I watch the noon kickoff. I watch the 3 o'clock game. I watch the Sunday night game. I watch Monday Night Football. I watch Thursday Night Football. But I also found myself spending more time watching the NFL Network to see what's going on. I want the news of the day. I want to see what's happening. Did so-and-so get hurt? Oh man, I need to pick up something good on the waiver wire because that team lost 4 defensive players this week, and they're playing against Buffalo. And I think Buffalo is, going to have a good offensive week against them.
Gotcha. So you're more in tune with not just the watching the games, but being actually invested in the ups and downs of each team and their weekly matchups. The other thing. So this is an interesting thing for me with fantasy is, one of the things I've noticed specifically, like my boyfriend's a Niners fan, and he is a
poor guy.
Fan. I know, right?
What an idiot!
What a sad life to lead. But he's also a huge fantasy fan as well. And one of the things I've noticed talking to him though is that he knows a lot of the player stats. He knows a lot of those things, but he knows them in relation to how many points they got him or somebody in his league in fantasy football. And I'm noticing though that from where I'm sitting, as someone who, I got more invested in football the further I've been away from Philly, because so for me it was for the past couple seasons, like into our Super Bowl run, it was more I know everything about the Eagles and I don't know too much about the other teams. And then towards later on that season, and as you're talking to more people, because one of the things about living in LA as well is I'm not talking to as many Eagles fans. I'm talking to other fans. I'm talking to Rams fans sometimes. I'm talking to people from all over the place. So now I'm starting to pick up more things about their teams. And so the past couple of years, I've really been doing that on my own, of just being more. I'm not a super stats person, but definitely I've been more aware of what's going on in the league. And so I'll have conversations with someone like Tony, who's super into fantasy. And I'm like, you're saying this player was really, really good because XYZ. And I'm saying that their fantasy stats are not indicative of their actual quality of play on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the interesting things. It's like how that relationship works and how those conversations happen. Because you're like, yeah, that guy might be baller for fantasy. That doesn't mean. And so sometimes I notice fantasy colors people's perception of the game itself.
That's true. Like Tony Romo, for instance, was a great fantasy quarterback to have. The dude would get you points. He would put up the numbers. But overall, the Cowboys sucked.
Yeah. Never won a championship.
Yeah. Or, you might have a tight end that he has a monster week for you. He catches 2 passes for 8 yards, but he's got 2 touchdowns. So you might be like, holy shit, that guy's the greatest tight end ever. No, he just was the beneficiary of some goal line, dinking and dunking.
Yeah, or a blown coverage or two, could have been
true.
A simple mistake. You look at someone's fantasy stats and you're like, wow, that guy's incredible. And like, no, they're just an opportunist, or they know how to scheme that particular player against this type of defense, and you run them up against another team and they're gonna do garbage. You look at it, and you're like, they put up a ton of points, but you watch them and they had a bunch of key drops during pivotal plays. And you're like, well, yeah, they caught some balls and ran some yards when it was easy, but they're not a good clutch receiver.
Like Amari Cooper, who fucked me this year. I was well on my way to the championship game, which I would have won based on the total points, and I would have three-peated. And I would have changed my fantasy football team name from Malavian Falcon to Winchester Three-Peaters. And no. And then with 6 minutes to go, I was winning by 20 points. And then Amari fucking Cooper ends up getting 200-something yards and 3 touchdowns over the course of the next 6 minutes plus overtime. And I lose by 5 points. And then I play in the consolation final where I whooped the dude's ass and and scored more points than the 2 people playing for the championship. So I lost my trophy and my $350.
Fuck you, Amari. Fuck you, Amari.
Yeah, so I hate Amari Cooper, but that's exactly it. You're going to say, oh, man, Amari Cooper is a great receiver. He does this, based on, like, one game where he just, like, blew it up. Of course, he's done better since he's left the Raiders, but then everybody does better after they leave Oakland because, the Raiders suck. They are garbage.
Yeah, but we'll see because he's with the Cowboys now, so they'll ruin him right quick.
Hopefully.
And I'm even thinking about, like, I would have a hard time, I think, drafting a player from a division rival and even rooting for that player. There's a couple. Someone like Saquon Barkley is a great example too.
That's like the only one you have to worry about because in that division there are no good players on opposition team.
The thing I was thinking about is I was thinking about that. I was like, that'd be terrible. But then who else would I want?
Yeah, the Redskins have nobody. The Giants have just Barkley. The Cowboys have Zeke, and that's it.
That's it. It's Dwayne Haskins might be a decent guy to pick up later in the season, depending how he does.
It's always good to have what I call the dark horse. So like last year, Mahomes was going to be my dark horse candidate to pick up somebody that had been unproven in the league and all that stuff. But then the quarterback panic sets in at a certain stage, and we'll get to that when we talk about draft strategy and how to avoid the quarterback panic.
Okay. Because I also think Haskins would be a good choice. Because of, once again, who they're playing. I mean, you're not going to start him against the Eagles for sure, but if you start, you have 2 chances to start Haskins against the Giants in a season, and he's going to eat up their defense.
Correct.
So
yes, it's always good, especially when it comes to bye weeks and strategy with that, because the way that bye weeks work, if your player's team is on a bye, they're on a bye, so you have to sit them and you have to replace them with somebody else. So it's always, you got to make sure you. Sometimes people come out of the box hot and they reach and they grab best player available. Mm-hmm. But then when you get later in the draft and you didn't do right, you don't draft right, and you're not drafting for need, you're going to find yourself having like 6 players on your starters on a bye in the same week. And then you're in bye week hell, scrambling on the waiver wire, trying to find something to give you an opportunity other than just being a walkover, victory for your opposition.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you want to get into more draft strategy then?
Yeah, sure. So the way I do it and the way you should do it, because it's the smartest way to do it when it comes to drafting. So you got 17 rounds. First rule of drafting: do not draft a kicker until round 17.
Okay.
People will draft kickers in higher rounds. Those people are retarded.
So this is a very similar to actual
yes.
natural thing. Don't ever draft a kicker unless you literally have nothing else you need at the bajillionth round.
So wait till round 17, because if you're in a 10-team league, which is most leagues, somebody will be really, really super stupid and they'll draft a kicker in round 13. So that still leaves you with 31 other NFL professional kickers to choose from by round 17. So even if a few come off the board, you're still going to get a top 10 kicker in the 17th round. Yeah. Do not draft the defense or special teams unless it's round 16, the second of the last round. Some people will reach and they will go grab a defense. The only time that is acceptable is if it's past round 11 or 12, and we're talking like 2000 Ravens defense, where you got a guy on there that's murdered people allegedly and murders them on the field, and you're getting sacks, interceptions, and defensive scores around the, out the yin yang. Then you could technically reach for that defense because you get to play them 16 games a year.
I'm confused though, because math. So don't draft. So I'm drafting a kicker in the 17th round.
Yes, the last round and the second to last round is where you draft defense and kickers.
Then you said so defense or special teams. You have a
defense, special teams. They're the same thing. Defense, special teams. That's the same thing.
Okay. So I was confused. I was like defense, special teams, kicker. But that's 2 rounds. That's what that math.
Yeah, no. D special teams is one whole unit.
1 unit, which I don't love, but I guess that is fine.
Yeah. So your second to last round is D special teams. Your last round is kicker. People will grab them earlier in the drafts. Those people are stupid because you could wait and you can get top 10, defense and top 10 kickers at the very end of the draft, and you can load up on them playmakers that will score you points. Now, here's where people go wrong. They grab a quarterback way too early in the draft. The best time to start looking at drafting a quarterback, round 10. You know why round 10? Because you've spent rounds 1 through 9 getting the best running backs that are out there, the best receivers, and hopefully, ideally, the best tight end or one of the top 5 tight ends. Because quarterbacks, if you wait till round 10, there's going to be maybe 3 or 4 go off the board when the quarterback panic sets in. You're still going to get a top 10 quarterback in round 10. So, I mean, the quarterbacks typically in the NFL, unless you're, Jameis Winston, are going to put up a lot of points. Famous Jameis, he might give you a lot of points in one game, but then he's going to turn the ball over 7 times in the next game.
Yeah.
So you can get a really good quarterback that's going to put you up consistently 18, 19 points a week in the 10th round. So that's why you don't reach for quarterback. Like last year, I got Andrew Luck in the 10th round. I rode him quite well because Luck had a good season.
Yep.
But the quarterback panic is the thing to avoid. What happens is this. You get to round 5 or 6, sometimes even earlier than that, somebody will draft Aaron Rodgers. Then Cam Newton goes. Then somebody else goes. Then somebody else goes because people start to panic. They're like, oh, shit, the best quarterback's going. I got to scramble and get a quarterback right now.
Yeah, but why would
embrace the quarterback panic? When you see the quarterback panic happening and quarterbacks are coming off the board like that in one round, be happy because that leaves you with a running back or a receiver that everybody's passing on that you'll be able to grab.
Gotcha. No, my why was more for like, why would you ever draft Cam Newton?
Oh, yeah. No, now you wouldn't anymore. The last couple of years, ever since, he got mentally broken in the Super Bowl defeat.
Yeah.
Superman got harpooned by a fucking kryptonite spear thrown by giant 4-headed fucking Frankenstein-necked Peyton Manning and his goddamn Denver Broncos. May they all die and burn in hell.
Yep.
No bias there.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. What is the best position to draft with your first pick?
Typically running back. They're the running backs they're your bell cow. They're the ones that are going to get you the most production, unless you're drafting later in the first round, in which case you can typically grab a top tier receiver, your Antonio Browns, your OBJs, except last year. Things like that.
A big year, unless he has a tantrum or unless he and Mayfield somehow don't like each other. He's gonna have a big year this year.
Yeah, typically, depending on draft position, first round, get the best available unless their name is Rob Gronkowski, who's always, which no longer is going to be an issue, but the Gronkinator is always one of those players that was ranked really super high.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would go into it in a draft and his player ranking would be like 8th or 9th overall. And somebody would always draft him in the first round. Don't do that. Because one, Gronk is perennially hurt. And two, you can get a fantastic, well-adjusted, good playmaker with that first round pick, and then you can get a good tight end in round 4 or 5.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
but elite quarterbacks, KW's got it right. The QB panic is real. Typically, the elite quarterback, you reach for him, and when you reach for an elite quarterback, you end up missing something. Because here's one thing. Quarterbacks can have bad games, but your running backs and receivers can still have good games, even if the quarterback has a bad game. Say your quarterback only gets 200 yards and a touchdown and an interception. That means one of his receivers has gotten that touchdown and probably a good chunk of that 200 yardage, and that running back was probably used far more than he was.
Yeah. And that's also, you can have a quarterback, you can have a game that is won handily without a quarterback putting up a lot of good stats.
Yeah.
We had that. I mean, Nick Foles' stats looked terrible during certain games that he won for us last year and like later in the season. And that's, I mean, very much so. And you also, I mean, the other thing is a lot of your elite quarterbacks are playing for your better teams, and your better teams typically have tougher schedules.
Right. So, and that's what happened. And so what you got to do is you got to say there's these 2 or 3 quarterbacks that somebody's going to reach for. Ron Rodgers, Cal is one of them. Maybe not so much anymore because he doesn't have as much complementary parts. Patrick Mahomes is now one of them. Trying to think of the other ones that are out there. Sometimes the Russell muscle goes kind of high because he can also get it done on the ground, although he hasn't done it as much lately because he's getting banged up and taking too many shots. People will reach for that. All you got to say is, okay, you know what? They took Mahomes in the 3rd round. Not a big deal. I'm looking at the Andrew Lucks of the world, the Kirk Cousins before he went to Minnesota's of the world, things like that. I'm looking for a Phillip Rivers, P. Rivs, for example.
Oh, yeah.
That dude has had a fantastic career. He's almost always fantasy money. He will get you almost 20 points a game for at least 80% of the games that he plays.
Nice.
That's something good to bank on. Captain Fat Fuck, as he's been dubbed by the urinating tree, Ben Roethlisberger. He was usually, I love that. Every time he refers to him as Captain Fat Fuck. And he's a yinzer, too, so he gets it.
Yep.
So that was also a guy that you could pick. You could get him in the later round, but for a while there, he was guaranteed at least 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every game, just about. Nice. So you can get those guys, not huge names when it comes to the elite of the quarterback in academy. But what happens is, like I said, somebody grabs Rodgers, somebody will grab this year Mahomes, somebody will grab Scam Newton, and the next thing you know, you've got the fucking panic set in, and everyone starts grabbing quarterbacks. What do? You just say, fuck it, I'm just going to grab these running backs and these receivers, and I'm going to win the league with Phillip Rivers.
I noticed that you keep leaving Brady off your list of
well, it's funny because Brady was also one of those that somebody would always grab Brady early. Last year, Brady was ranked at like one of the bottom level quarterbacks. He was not ranked as high. Dude's 40-something years old. Nobody, I think, expected a lot out of the Patriots last year. But I know somebody in one of the leagues I did a mock draft. Do lots of practice mock drafts. You'll kind of see how it works. Just like Driving Mayhem points out, you'll see where people are going, where people are thinking, and kind of formulate a game plan around that. And then, so one of the leagues I was in last year, somebody drafted Brady in the 1st round. They were pretty stupid for doing so. Brady had a decent season, but he didn't have a monumental. If you would have drafted Mahomes in the 1st round, people would have thought you were completely retarded. But then he ended up going on to throw almost 50 touchdown passes and 5,000 yards. So it didn't look as bad. But I mean, your Breezes, your Rodgers, those guys, they're going. Somebody's going to grab them. Somebody's going to reach for them. That's when you sit back and say, you know what? I'm going to suck for luck.
What do you think? How do you think my boy Nick is going to do this year?
Oh, Big Dick Nick. I think he'll do all right.
It'll be an interesting.
He doesn't have any superstar receivers, but he's got receivers like Marquise Lee in that. They're not superstars, but they get shit done.
He's one of the ones too where I think week to week. But the thing with Foles is that he can be really unpredictable as a player. So he's one of those guys where if you happen to put him in on the right week, he's going to throw 7 touchdowns, and if you put him in on the wrong week, he's going to get like 70 yards.
Oh yeah, that breakout year that he had that one year, I had him and Jamal Charles, and I won my league running away. It was like not even close because Big Dick Nick's out there throwing 300, 400 yards and 5-6 touchdowns a game. I had Jamal Charles at one game against the Raiders where he set a record for like 55 fantasy points that week.
Nice.
It was great.
Awesome. Oh goodness, such a long night last night. Awesome. All right, is there anything else I don't know?
No, just anything you don't know, just fire it away. I'll try to answer them as best I can. And if it comes up later, then yeah, we'll address it later. But yeah, that definitely, I think you would really enjoy fantasy football. It's a lot of fun. Yes, it does create some conflicts of interest, but it sounds like you're going to try to go out of your way to avoid those.
Yes, I can make this happen. I can do this.
Typically, I don't have as many conflicts of interest because I typically don't ever draft Broncos or Raiders players, so it's not as bad. And I can have Brady or somebody on my team, and I don't have to hang up about rooting for the Patriots. I mean, I was the biggest Patriots fan in the world during the Super Bowl.
I hate the Patriots. I didn't want to see Goff win a Super Bowl though.
I didn't want to see the Rams win a Super Bowl for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a loyal, loving, wonderful St. Louis citizen. I love my hometown, even despite all of its flaws, where we routinely make top 10 lists. And by top 10 lists, I mean top 1 or 2 lists of the worst possible things that happen in the country. And yeah, I don't like what Kroenke did to the city, even though I'm a Chiefs fan and never considered the Rams a rival because they weren't. They played the Chiefs 5 times during the real games that meant something during the course of their 20-year stay. The Chiefs are 5-0 against the St. Louis Rams. Not a big deal. I don't care. But the way they totally bent this city over, I was like, I don't want to see them be successful. Plus, there was a bunch of what I consider football cucks still running around in St. Louis. The Rams left. They went to L.A., but they're still like, fucking Rams for life, baby. I'm like, yeah. You're essentially cheering your old lady on for dumping you and going and banging somebody else. How does it feel?
That's exactly – it's well put. That's very well put.
Yeah, you're a football cuck.
There's so many – because LA, there's so many of like the blonde bimbos being like, I like football, go Rams. And I'm like, shut your whore face. You're just trying to suck a dick.
Just give them my phone number. You have it. Just be like, hey, I know somebody that will take you up on that.
If you want this, here he is.
He's semi-famous in a small peripheral of the internet.
He's important. But I honestly think for me, this Super Bowl, whoever I never like to see if I was like, if somebody could just drop a giant bomb on this stadium and ruin and just murder everyone on both teams, I would be the happiest. But the fact that it was one of the most boring, low-scoring Super Bowls of all time really, really just brought me joy.
As a defensive-minded person, I loved every second of it. I'm like, yes, dominating defenses. That's me though to a T. When it comes to football, I'm the ground and pound type guy. I want to put a ball. I want to, hand the ball off to somebody that's going to bruise you and knock the shit out of you. And then I want a defense that's going to smother you. But then again, that's probably because as a kid, I was, grew up a Chiefs fan and we had Christian Okoye running in the backfield, just dominating people and making them hurt. And then we had Derek Thomas and Neil Smith, and one of the better defensive units of the early 90s, killing people.
Yeah. I do really enjoy, though, that there are some people who are like, defenses don't win championships. And then other people who are like, defenses win championships. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, defenses don't win championships. Ask the 2000 Ravens. They won a Super Bowl despite Trent Dilfer.
What year? The Broncos, Peyton's last year.
Oh, that was a couple years ago when they destroyed Scam Newton's, mindset.
That was very much in spite of Peyton. Very much in spite of Peyton.
Yep.
Yeah, no, for sure. But that's I just like that you have both camps. You're like, you're going to burn, but I think
defense will help you win a championship, just not a fantasy championship.
Fair. So on another note, on a non-fantasy note, I found an interesting column by Adam Schein, an NFL columnist, 9 bold predictions for the 2019 season.
Oh, let's hear them.
All right, you ready for this? I'm already excited based on the number one. 1, Derek Carr returns to MVP form.
Shit.
No, I don't. I just think that's false.
I would not be upset if his leg gets broke again.
I really think that the MVP Derek Carr was more of an anomaly was more the exception than the rule.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a car. And there's a precedent that's been set.
Yes, indeed.
Although the Texans kind of had a lot to do with ruining his brother.
Well, yeah. You ready for number 2?
I am.
So we're both in agreement that number 1 is utter horseshit.
Yeah.
Number 2, the Green Bay Packers win 11 games to sit atop the NFC North.
With what?
A-Rod.
Aaron can only do so much. Who's he fucking throwing to? Who's blocking for him? Who's pounding the ball on the ground? What defense is there?
I love it. I mean, I think it would be tough for any team to win 11 games in the NFC North because you have, I mean,
well, you got your 2 bye wins against Detroit.
Well, yeah, exactly. You have those two, but then other than that, the Bears are tough.
Yeah.
And the Vikings are not going to be a great team, but they're going to put up a fight.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be lucky as the Packers, even with a hot Packers team, you're going to be lucky not to split with both of those teams.
Yeah, I was going to say you're getting your 2 wins against Detroit. Which, by the way, back to fantasy quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford is typically fantasy gold as well. You can get him in the later rounds, and he puts points up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're going to get your 2 wins against Detroit. They're going to probably lose both games against the Bears. They're going to split their games with the Vikings.
Yeah.
So where's the other what is it? 8 wins coming from?
Exactly. So that's
who does the AFC North have this year? And what do they got? They've got, I'm trying to think, the Chiefs. They got the AFC West this year.
Yeah, the AFC West.
They're not going to beat Kansas City. They'll beat Oakland. They're not going to probably beat San Diego or Los Angeles, the fucking Chargers. They're possibly would beat the Broncos. So now there's 2 wins. So now they're up to 5. Where's the rest of them coming from?
They play the NFC East, and they are playing us in Philly. So that's going to be a tough one for them to win. It depends if they play the Cowboys on the road at home or not. If they play the Cowboys at home, they'll beat the Cowboys. If they play the Cowboys in Dallas, you go to Jerry World, and the refs can easily hand that game away.
Yeah, Jerry usually his checks don't bounce.
No, and same thing. So I think with the if you're coming out playing the NFC East, it's be very. I mean, they'll beat the Giants, but it's gonna be very much a question like with all 3 of those teams. I think even with the Skins versus the Packers, it'd be a matter of whether you're playing at home or not, and what happens with the Redskins, how far along, how well their pieces come together in the offseason.
Yeah, 11 games, no, maybe 8. And yes, James Sanchez. I know Detroit's undefeated against Green Bay the past 2 years. That was for an audience of 1, and he knows who he is.
There you go. Undefeated. There you go. All right. Baker Mayfield becomes an MVP candidate while taking the AFC North.
Plausible. I could see that. Baker, he's had a year to adjust. The Browns have loaded up. They're still the Browns, though, so there's always that possible factory of sadness factor that comes into it.
Yeah, and my prediction, you have a lot of egos in that locker room, and that could crumble.
Yeah, there's 2 things that can happen with the Cleveland Browns this year. They could be crazy good, or they could fucking unravel extremely quickly with all the, divas in the locker room.
Exactly. So it's not impossible that prediction comes true, but it's also I would say that is a good bold prediction because it's you're staking your claim on that one, so you can be the person because it's very certainly could happen, and you can be the guy who said I believed it all along at the end of the season. So
yeah, so he's 1 for 2 right now.
There you go. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers finished 3rd in the AFC North. Plausible.
Plausible because they've lost their 2 biggest pieces on offense. James Conner's still there, but it's the second-year running back. So a lot of times with those running backs that break out of nowhere, the question is how does the league adjust to them and what's going to happen in their second year. Yep. The Browns, I guess they figure they're going to finish ahead of the Steelers, but who are they expecting else?
Predicted that they're going to win the AFC.
Yeah, so I guess he's thinking Baltimore's going to finish ahead of them.
Which is not impossible.
Their defense has taken some hits because they've lost some pieces.
They have lost a lot of their veteran pieces. So I'm not anticipating Baltimore being a strong contender this year.
Yeah.
They're definitely very much in a they're in a rebuild, but they're at the beginning of their rebuild. They're like, bye Flacco, we're moving on from you, we're like officially moving on from you, and now we need to figure out how all the pieces fit together for the future. Is Lamar Jackson the guy, etc.
I could see it happening, and the way he's possibly thinking it is Browns win the division, the Ravens go 8-8, and the Steelers end up going like 7-9 or 6-10.
They just tank it. I think that's a fair, because I think that's what it's going to be. I think unless the Browns go ahead and shit the bed completely,
which is possible.
Which is totally possible. They have a really, really good chance of running away with the league this year.
Yeah.
Or with the division this year. Not the league, just the division. All right, number 5. Daniel Jones starts at least 7 games for the New York Giants. I don't think that's happening.
It might if Eli gets killed.
Yeah, it would. I think the only way that he actually comes in and starts that many games that they full bench Eli is injury.
Yeah, that's the only way. Yeah, he's going to have to get fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
And then you'll see Daniel Jones coming in there and playing some football, but unless Eli gets just annihilated, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't at all.
This is the guy that's thrown 4 or 5 picks a game with the same derp look on his face at all times and hasn't gotten benched.
Yeah, so I think I think that's very unlikely unless it's really, really ugly or he gets injured or they can say that there's an injury. And people are talking about my hair in the chat. I haven't gotten a haircut yet. It's just still drying. I'm getting a haircut. This is not what haircut looks like on Jessi, guys.
Yeah, because we had the conversation when it came to doing the show tonight. We had to make sure we got it in before her haircut appointment.
Before haircut time. Yes. No, it just looks weird because it's wet, so it's pushed back a little differently. It always looks different when it's a little wet. Anyway. Yeah, so I think that one's crap. The NFC West is the most exciting division in football.
So the Rams will be good. Seattle's in a rebuild, sort of. San Francisco's coming up. The Cardinals are a number 1 draft pick that excites people. I don't see it.
I wanted to say mostly there will be some exciting matchups. The Rams matchups are not going to be the most exciting. The thing with the Rams is that you either have their number or you don't. You either have what it takes to challenge them and beat them because they're, for all that Sean McVay is a fucking genius, he's not. He's not that much of a genius. He has a system that works, and people are starting to figure that system out. This will be I think this season actually is going to be McVay's real test as a head coach, because if he can make those adaptations and keep the Rams on top, then I'm going to say he's legit. If he keeps in the same system and nothing really changes, so you're going to win a lot of games just from your star power, and you're going to lose some when a smarter team with equal star power comes and rolls over you. Then I'm saying McVay is a hack.
Yeah.
But I don't think that those will be the interesting games because once again, they'll either have the number or they won't. The other teams and the Cardinals, I think, are still going to get rolled by the Rams. But Seattle
Cardinals are going to get rolled by just about everybody.
By everybody still. But it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch it happen, but they're still going to get rolled. The Niners have a shot of winning at least one of those games. The Seahawks have a shot of winning both of those games in spite of the rebuild. Just because I don't think that the Rams are legit. I think that they are a sum of their parts. I think they are just their parts. That they're not greater than the sum of their parts. They really are just that. But that said, I think that Niners Cardinals will be fun games. Seahawks will be fun games. So the question is, to fully refute this statement, though, which division will be more fun?
Well, the NFC East is always a bloodbath, and that's fun.
Yeah. The East.
The North could be fun if somehow Aaron, does some kind of blood magic and wills that team to be better than what they are. The Bears pick up where they left off last year with a good defense. The Lions maybe do something, and the Vikings kind of figure things out. And Kirk Cousins remembers, hey, I used to be really good when I played for the Redskins. Then I think the NFC North could be really good. It could be a lot of fun.
The NFC North could be fun. You know what? The AFC South could be fun.
Yeah, could be because the Colts are back. The Texans, they had a humongous good season comparatively to what they've been in the past. The Titans have been better.
And the Jaguars have Foles now.
So that could be good too.
I think the AFC South will be the most exciting division of football because of that. Because I think you have some pretty even matchups. You have some teams with some scrappy players. that they're always going to challenge. You're never going to write off one of those teams if you're playing them this season. I don't think any team in the league has the luxury of going against any of those 4 teams and writing a V in. Likely in a lot of cases, they may have the odds may be on their side, but I don't think not a single one. That's the only division that I can think of where you can say that, where there's no easy wins in that division. There's no automatic there's no chance that you're not gonna get surprised by one of those teams.
Right. It'll be interesting. I mean, a lot will be learned through the training camp cycles and things like that. So there's still ways to go before we even have any real definitive information on who's going to be good. Based off of last year, you kind of have a few ideas of who's going to have a good team, but
it's not all. I mean, there's some teams that are in better positions than others, but some of these teams that have sort of moved their pieces around could be really interesting to see what they do. But that's mine. I'm saying definitely not on the NFC West. I think the NFC North will be more interesting, but my pick is AFC South for the most.
Yeah, I was going to say there's divisions that have potential to be better than the NFC West.
AFC South is my pick. Hey, Kitten, Lando, who do you think? Lando's an Eagles fan who wants lunch right now. Aren't you a cutie? Aren't you a cutie? Pandering for views because cat people like cats. Yeah. Look at the internet. Look at the internet. Hey, baby, I can't get to the next prediction while you're in my lap, even though I put you here. So now that I told him I wanted to read it, he won't. He's been perching on my knees lately. It's cute. Hello, ass. Andy Dalton enjoys the best year of his career.
No. Is he still on the Bengals?
Yeah, he's still starting quarterback for the Bengals.
Then how can he have the best year of his career? Unless he doesn't play, he still collects the money he's making. He just gets to sit on the sidelines all year. And it's like, I won't be destroyed half the time by my terrible offensive line. Then, maybe then it would be the best year of his career. It's like, I'm just going to sit back and collect $10 million.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. No, he's trying to make a real case for this, even though he's the same person who predicted that the Bengals are going to finish by default 4th in the division, since which I think is true. I don't know. I don't know. They have a horrible defense.
Yeah, no, the Bengals are not good.
They have their last year's defense was 30th in scoring and 32nd in overall. So that I don't know how I don't know. Okay.
They're a 2-14 team probably.
Yeah. If they're lucky. Because they don't even get those gimmies over the Browns anymore.
No, they're going to get their shit pushed in by the Browns, the Ravens, and the bad Steelers.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So number 8, Sean McDermott earns Coach of the Year honors.
Probably not.
I'm gonna say no. This writer's got Buffalo as his Cinderella team.
I mean, Buffalo, they've had them in prime position to break out and break that stranglehold the Patriots have had on the AFC East for a while. It hasn't happened.
But this year will be the year. It won't be.
It's probably not. No,
it won't be. My money's against that one. I would love to see them come up and challenge. I'd love to see them spank the Pats.
Oh, everybody wants to see somebody else win the AFC East, but for whatever reason, Belichick's got that wicked voodoo witchcraft stuff he's got going on up there.
He sacrifices prostitutes.
Yeah. Robert Kraft. Yeah, Robert Kraft. He goes and finds them. They sacrifice them to the football gods, and the football gods show favoritism, as do the referees.
Exactly. Precisely. If I will say my one caveat for this one is if the Buffaloes somehow. That's what we're calling them.
The University of Colorado's in the NFL now? Good for them.
Yeah. If the Bills somehow win the AFC East, then yes, McDermott deserves Coach of the Year.
Yes, but until then.
And only if it's because they've legitimately taken that step forward, not because Brady finally hits his wall, and the Dolphins continue to be garbage, and the Jets are the Jets.
Belichick disappears in a helicopter over the mountains.
Exactly. That's they would have to do this in order for McDermott to be eligible. They would have to do this very much on their own merit, not because the other teams tanked.
Yes.
No. Side note, isn't it weird though that the Buffalo Bills mascot is around their city, not their anyway. What is a bill?
Something you fold up and put in your pocket.
Exactly. So
or things that you hate getting in the mail.
Yeah, ain't true that. All right, ready for number 9?
Ready for number 9.
The Los Angeles Chargers field the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, that's possible because they had a pretty good defense last year.
It's possible.
Not likely. I would still say the Bears probably have the edge on the defensive side of the ball because they didn't really lose anything.
Exactly. That's my thing is your dominant defenses. I mean, even the Broncos defense could still be pretty dominant. Could be pretty dominant this year. Sorry. But yeah, the Bears defense was absolutely dominant, and they have not lost pieces. I don't know if they've added anything. I don't know if they added much in the draft, but I see no reason for that defense to take a step back. And I don't know how much they've added. I mean, look, the Chargers defense is always great and always fun to watch with the Bosa Ingram tandem, but I don't know that they've put enough on that team to overtake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll see. It'll be an interesting. You should hold on to that so we can see if any of those, how much of that comes true.
Let me save this thing. We're gonna come back. We'll revisit this one. All right. So we've got that one as a maybe.
Yeah.
I'll accept 8 as a good bold pick again for the reasons we talked, because it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Happen. It's not likely. Hello, Kat. Hello. You're back again.
We'll say a maybe, trending, not likely.
Yeah. But I think that's a good take. I think that one's a good take. I think that his the Steelers one is a good take, and the Mayfield one is a good take.
Yeah, I'll agree with those. I'm
not necessarily sure they'll all come to fruition, but I think those 3 are good takes. I think everything else. The Chargers is not a good take. I wouldn't say that's a bold prediction. I think it's just like a not really ridiculous prediction that's not that likely.
True.
So I don't think that one's like a good hot take. But so we'll say of those, 3 of those are decent takes. We'll see what comes of this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what. I think we should find more of those bold predictions for the season things and see what percentage these people are batting.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Hey, baby, you're excited. Bold prediction: my cat will continue purring louder and louder until I pay more attention to him.
We'll have to come up with some of our own ridiculous bold predictions.
We should. Carson Wentz MVP.
Well, that's just a bold prediction. I was thinking something more ridiculous like a kicker wins MVP or something like that. Harrison Butker passes for 800 yards in one game.
But
Kendo, he's a kicker. How's that possible?
Broncos defense puts up more points, more over total points than Broncos offense.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins fight each other at the Redskins logo for who was the greatest Redskin quarterback of all time.
Hi, cat. Hi, kitty.
Jamarcus Russell makes dramatic comeback.
Odell Beckham cries in every single game this season.
Antonio Brown completely melts down.
Jason Witten is the Cowboys MVP.
Packers fans scream about how great they are.
Whoa. That will never happen.
Joe K 470 says, one last thing. If my Chicago Bears, by the way, Chicago sucks, gets a decent field goal kicker, will they reach the Super Bowl?
No.
They need a running back.
They do need a running back. I'm still not sold on Trubisky. I think he's good. I don't know if he will be great. He could easily be like a Donovan McNabb, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Bears got to where they were last year solely on the shoulders of their defense.
Yeah. I don't think they have all the they have an okay offense, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender just by offloading Parkey.
True.
My other hot take was going to be that Jimmy Garoppolo beats all of Tom Brady's records this season.
All right.
How funny would that be, though?
It'd be hilarious.
Like,
Bold prediction: Patrick Mahomes becomes a patron saint of the city of Kansas City, and they give him keys.
That's reasonable. A sect of Christianity springs up that actually worships Carson Wentz as their Lord and Savior.
I can see that.
We do call him Ginger Jesus already.
Yeah. Belichick will sacrifice at least 5 Robert Kraft whores.
I don't think that's a bold prediction. I think that's just a statement of fact.
That's probably happened already this year. That's how they got such a great draft.
He's probably already done it. Yeah. The Cowboys have at least 4 players go to jail over the course of the season.
I could see that. Some Antonio Brown stabbed somebody with scissors, a la Michael Irvin.
Oh boy, Russell Wilson runs a lot.
Kyler Murray gets injured badly.
Preferably by Nick Bosa, because that would be funny.
That would be ironic as hell.
That would be ironic. Ooh. Here would be another good one. They do start the Giants start Daniel Jones against Dwayne Haskins, and they get raped by them.
I don't know if that's really that bold of a prediction.
No, that's my irony. That's another irony.
Oh, okay.
No, the bold prediction would be if it goes the other way. No, the irony game is they start Daniel Jones and Haskins just eviscerates the Giants, which is, again, definitely not a bold prediction because
I was gonna say that's an actual likely scenario that we could see play out.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Bold prediction. The Browns still suck.
Yeah, bold prediction. Yeah, I was gonna say the bold prediction. The Browns are who we thought they were, and they end up going 2-14.
Ooh, Mattoween's got one though. The Browns start 0-6.
Anything's possible. There's been teams that have been tipped for Super Bowl glory that have come out of the box and lost 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, here we also have Aaron Rodgers will blame another coach for his shortcomings.
That's not really that bold. That's probably accurate.
Accurate.
You're a little too closer to the bullseye on that bold prediction.
That was Joe K4470. I think you shot that arrow right in the bullseye. What's any updates on Tyreek Hill, by the way?
No.
Just still trying to find out if he beat the crap out of a 3-year-old.
Yeah, we're still trying to find out if he broke his kid's arm and lied about it.
Huzzah! That's delightful.
Yeah.
That's delightful.
That's where we're at these days.
We picked up Zach Brown.
The fucking country musician?
Yes. No, there's a football player named Zach Brown as well.
Does he suck as bad as country music does?
I know he's an interesting, I think, a linebacker. That'll be an interesting piece for our team. Where did he come from? Zach Brown, NFL. The funny, I always enjoy both the country music singer and the player. But whatchamacallit, words. I have a friend in real who's a fencing referee named Zach Brown, so I always think it's very cool. I guess apparently he and Lane Johnson had a feud, and now they've made peace. But yeah, he's a linebacker who came from, where did he come from?
Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Tennessee. I'm just guessing.
Yes. What? Oh, you're just saying states? Texas is a place. No, I'm trying to figure out which team he came from before. I don't think it was Texas. But yeah, let me see.
Cleveland.
No, he does not. That is not correct.
He wasn't a Cleveland Brown?
He was not a Brown.
How can you say Brown's not a Brown?
What?
How can you say Brown is not a Brown?
Brown's not a Brown. Though, actually, this particular friend my friend who is Zach Brown, his father, or maybe his mother, one of his parents, when he was trying to wrangle their children, would say, "Come on, little brown boys."
Things that haven't aged well, like John Elway.
Kermit the Log's bold prediction is Mahomes will take a step back this year.
Yeah, he's going to take a step back and throw for 52 touchdowns, and Kermit the Log could shut his whore mouth.
Redskins. Zach Brown came from the Redskins. By the way,
racist.
He came from the racists. Yeah, the brown guy was with the Skins, so he's our diversity hire.
Yeah.
But no, that's actually good. I think it was a good choice. He's had some good play for the Redskins, and I mean, obviously, I didn't know he was in the Redskins, but I remember his name popping up as like he was a name I remember popping up in games and being like, oh, that is a good player. So, or he has made good plays. So we need that linebacker depth. So we're just stacking ourselves. We're just jacking ourselves up now.
Yeah, and off.
Howie Roseman is yes. Well, we always do that. That's my favorite. So Howie Roseman's our the fuck is his job? He's our magic man. Our GM.
Oh, the guy with the roids.
He's our GM. Yeah, no, he does magic for our team. Like he's he pulled out the Jay Ajayi trade mid-season in our Super Bowl run. And so my favorite meme to come out of his wheeling and dealing of the past couple of years is, "You're a wizard, Howie." Harry Potter reference. It's a Harry Potter reference. What do you want?
You say Harry Potter, I think of My Immortal. It is forever corrupted the way I view Harry Potter.
But have you ever watched Wizard People, Dear Reader?
No, but I've sat through 3 episodes of World Class Bullshitters in which we read My Immortal.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why? Wizard People, Dear Reader is the best. It's a guy who is very, very drunk, who presumably has never seen Harry Potter, narrating the entire first movie. Like commentating on it. So it's one of those things where you start his commentary with the film, and it's just excellent. It's just excellent. I highly recommend Wizard People, Dear Reader if you want to overwrite some of those horrifying memories of My Immortal.
I mean, I wouldn't call them horrifying. They were accompanied with laughter from people I know. So, and I was I was on one of them. So they're good memories. That's how I equate Harry Potter, because I've never gotten into Harry Potter.
That's unfortunate for you.
I don't know, wizards and stuff and little kids and trains. It just never did it for me. I was
wait, like that's your takeaway. Little kids and trains.
Yeah, they go crashing through the train station and they go and they play with the big, huge, hairy dude and his ostrich.
Everything you said just sounds so gay.
Yeah, that's how I view Harry Potter.
Oh God. All right. Well then, on that note, since we've gone firmly off the rails, I think it's probably, and I need to go to my haircut, which starts in 12 minutes. I think it is about time that we call it for the day, episode 3.
Yeah.
Smashing success.
A lot of fun, like always.
Because we are the best people talking about football in the world.
Yeah. I'm going to go barbecue and take a nap.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I am going to get my haircut and then stare at the wall. That sounds like fun. But yeah, make sure you're subscribing to Footballs Deep. This one will be taken down as soon as we're done here, and it will be put back. It will be put onto Footballs Deep. So make sure you subscribe. The sooner that you subscribe and give us a gajillion views, the sooner we can get monetized on there and then not have to do this flip-floppy dance. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this live stream made us so much money.
Give us your money.
All of the super chats that we didn't get. Hooray!
Bastards.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Jessi Milestone, and that is person.
I'm Kendo.
On behalf of Kendo Slice from World Class Bullshitters, I'm Jessi Milestone, Miles Entertainment. We are signing off. Goodbye.
Subscribe to our stuff.
Yeah, do it.